Listen to me. There's a moment in every life where the truth walks in uninvited. It doesn't knock. It doesn't smile. It just says, either you will become the person you promised yourself, or you will become the person your excuse is. Designed. Winners aren't superhuman. They're not chosen. They're forged. And the furnace is this. Every single day, they choose responsibility over reasons. They choose action over alibis. They choose standards over feelings. So today, I'm not here to make you comfortable. I'm here to make you clear. If it matters, we move. If it's hard, we grow. If it hurts, we learn. Excuses are the bricks of a prison you build from the inside. But freedom is one decision away. Own everything you can control and then control it. If you're ready to stop negotiating with your limitations, if you're ready to make a promise to your future and keep it no matter how you feel, then let's begin. Because after today, can't turns into won't, and won't has no place in your vocabulary. There's a fine line between a reason and an excuse. But the difference between the two is the difference between progress and paralysis. Every single one of us has faced real challenges moments when life hit harder than we expected. When circumstances seemed unfair, when the mountain looked too steep to climb. In those moments, we often say, I can't, because, and we wrap our words in logic, convincing ourselves that what we're saying is reasonable. But here's the truth. Most of the time, what we're calling a reason is nothing more than an excuse in disguise. A reason is an objective reality, something outside of your control that truly limits you. For example, if you're 5 feet tall, you cannot wake up tomorrow and join the NBA as a professional center. That's a limitation of reality. But an excuse, that's when you could take action, but you choose a story instead. That's when you say, I'm too tired, or I don't have time, or I don't know how. Those are not reasons. They are excuses, and excuses are nothing but protective lies we tell ourselves to stay comfortable, to avoid the discomfort of growth. Here's how you know the difference. Ask yourself one question. Has anyone in my position, with my challenges, found a way to succeed? If the answer is yes, then your obstacle is not the end, it's an excuse waiting to be cut down by your action. Think about it. There are people who were born with less than you, people who faced greater struggles, and yet they built lives of meaning, success, and strength. The moment you recognize that truth, the excuse loses its power, because if someone else did it, then you can too. But excuses are seductive. They sound reasonable. They let us off the hook. They allow us to say, it's not my fault. It's not my problem. It's not my job. They protect our ego by shielding us from the sting of failure. Because if I never try, I can never lose. If I never risk, I can never fall. But listen carefully. What feels like protection is actually a prison. Excuses are bricks in a wall that you build around your potential. Every time you say, I can't because, you add another brick. One day, you look around and you've sealed yourself inside a cage you constructed with your own hands. So how do we break free? It starts with radical honesty, brutal honesty, the kind of honesty that cuts. You have to look yourself in the mirror and say, This excuse I've been repeating, is it a truth or a story? Is it a reason I cannot control? Or is it a choice I am refusing to make? Because when you stop lying to yourself, you take the first step toward reclaiming your power. One of the most powerful tools you can use is what I call the control. Influence, accept triad. Every situation you face falls into one of these three categories. Some things you control: your choices, your effort, your habits, your attitude. Some things you influence: your relationships, your opportunities, your environment. Some things you can only accept: the weather, the past, your genetics, the things you cannot change. The mistake most people make is pouring energy into what they cannot control while making excuses about what they can. Winners flip that equation. Winners say, I will own everything I can control. I will maximize everything I can influence. And I will accept the rest without complaint. That's how you take the power away from excuses. Because the moment you focus on what is in your control, the excuses lose their weight. So let me ask you right now, what is one excuse you've been carrying? Maybe it's, I don't have enough time. But are you willing to take an honest look at how much time you spend scrolling, binge-watching, or procrastinating? Maybe it's, I don't have the right resources. But are you willing to admit that resources often follow resourcefulness? And what you really need is creativity and effort. Maybe it's, I don't have the right people around me. But are you willing to ask, what can I do to build the right environment, to seek mentors, to upgrade my circle? This is the fight, not against the world, not against other people, but against the stories you've been telling yourself. Excuses whisper that you're stuck, but the truth is, you're not stuck, you're avoiding responsibility. Excuses pretend to protect your pride, but in reality, they rob you of progress. Excuses promise comfort, but what they deliver is regret. And regret is heavier than failure. Failure is temporary. It teaches, it sharpens, it humbles. Regret is permanent. It lingers. It eats at your soul. It whispers, what if, when you're too old to change the answer. That's why winners don't make excuses. Not because they never feel like it. Not because they don't face obstacles. But because they've decided that carrying the weight of discipline is always lighter than carrying the weight of regret. Excuses don't fall out of the sky. They're not accidents. They are born inside us, shaped by fear, by doubt, by the voices we've listened to for too long. Every excuse you've ever told yourself has a birthplace. And until you understand where they come from, you'll never know how to cut them off at the root. At the heart of almost every excuse is fear. Fear of failing. Fear of being judged. Fear of looking weak. Fear of not being enough. Excuses are the armor we wear to protect ourselves from the possibility of pain. Think about it. When you say, I can't do it right now, I'm too busy, what you're really saying is, if I try, I might fall short. And if I fall short, people will see me as a failure. And if they see me as a failure, maybe I'll believe I'm a failure. So instead of risking the pain of trying and not succeeding, you choose the illusion of safety. You choose the story, but that safety is an illusion, because while you're hiding from pain, time keeps moving. Life doesn't wait. Opportunity doesn't pause, and fear, left unchecked, becomes your permanent prison guard. Excuses are also born from comfort. Comfort feels good in the moment, but it's a trap. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, to conserve energy, to avoid unnecessary risk. That's why growth feels uncomfortable, because your brain thinks discomfort equals danger. So the moment you step towards something hard, waking up early, starting a business, chasing a dream, your mind screams for relief. It whispers, "You're too tired. You don't have enough time. You can't start tomorrow." Those whispers are not truth. They are your brain trying to pull you back into the familiar, into the known, into the comfort zone. But let me tell you something. The comfort zone is where dreams go to die. It's soft, it's safe, but it slowly smothers your potential. Every time you choose comfort over growth, you feed the birthplace of excuses. And the more you feed it, the louder it gets. Excuses are also born in the shadows of our identity. Deep down, we all carry beliefs about who we are and what we deserve. If you believe you're not smart enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough, you will unconsciously create excuses to protect that belief. Why? Because if you never try, you never have to face the possibility that your belief might be true. Excuses become a shield for your fragile identity. For example, someone who secretly believes they don't deserve success might say, "I can't apply for that job. I'm not qualified." Or, "I can't start that business. I don't have the resources." But what they're really saying is, "If I try and fail." Then the world will fears a moment in every winner's journey where something shifts. It's not when they get lucky. It's not when the world suddenly opens its doors for them. It's the moment they pivot from excuses to ownership. That pivot changes everything. It's the difference between blaming the world and building your world. Between being a victim of circumstance and becoming the author of your destiny. Ownership doesn't mean everything is your fault. That's where people get it wrong. Ownership doesn't mean blaming yourself for every unfair thing that's ever happened to you. Life is not fair. We know that. People will hurt you. Opportunities will be taken. Circumstances will rise up against you that you did not choose. But listen carefully. Ownership does not equal blame, it equals power. Because while you may not have caused the problem, you always have a choice about how you respond to it. And that choice, that's where your power lives. When you live in blame, your focus is backward. You spend your time pointing fingers, replaying stories, listing reasons why it's not your fault. Blame freezes you in the past. But when you live in ownership, your focus is forward. You stop asking, "Who caused this?" And you start asking, "What can I do about this now?" That one shift in thinking turns frustration into fuel. Think about it. Every time you say, "It's not my fault," you're giving away your control. You're putting your life in someone else's hands. But every time you say, "This is my responsibility," you take the power back. Responsibility is heavy, yes, but it's also liberating. Because when you own it, you can change it. Let me give you a simple but powerful language shift that winners use. Instead of saying, "I have to," they say, "I choose to." Instead of saying, "I can't," they say, "I won't." Instead of saying, "This happened to me," they say, "I allowed this, I created this, or I chose this." That language is not soft, it's steel. Because every time you frame your life as a choice, you remind yourself of your power. Picture this. Two people lose their job on the same day. One says, "This isn't fair. The company betrayed me. The economy is bad. There's nothing I can do." That person sinks into bitterness, waiting for someone to rescue them. The other says, "This is my life, my career, my responsibility. I didn't choose this outcome, but I will choose my response. I will sharpen my skills. I will network. I will find a way." Same event to mindsets, to futures. The second person pivoted to ownership, and that pivot unlocked possibility. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Winners do not need everything to go their way. Winners need only one thing: to believe that everything in their control belongs to them. They take ownership of their time, their discipline, their energy, their relationships, their growth. They stop waiting for the perfect circumstances. They stop negotiating with their excuses. They say, "If it's going to be, it's up to me." But here's the catch. Ownership requires courage. It's easy to say, "My boss ruined my career," because it puts the burden on someone else. It's easy to say, "I wasn't born in the right family," because it lets you avoid accountability. Ownership forces you to look yourself in the eye and admit, "I could have done more. I could have shown up differently. I could have prepared better." That truth cuts, but it also heals. Because once you own it, you can fix it. So let me ask you, where in your life are you still living in blame? Is it your health? Do you say, "I don't have time to eat right. My schedule is too busy," when the truth is, you're choosing convenience over commitment? Is it your relationships? Do you say, "They don't support me," when the truth is, you've never clearly set boundaries or communicated your vision? Is it your finances? Do you say, "I can't get ahead because the system is unfair," when the truth is, you haven't taken ownership of learning money, saving money, multiplying money? This is not about shame. It's about freedom. Ownership is not punishment. It's permission. Permission to stop waiting. Permission to stop depending on someone else's decision to determine your destiny. Permission to build the life you want with the tools you already have. And ownership is contagious. The moment you claim it, people around you feel it. They trust you more. They follow you more. They believe in you more. Why? Because ownership is rare. Excuses are everywhere, everybody's got one. But ownership shines. It cuts through the noise. It creates leaders. So here's the pivot. When you face a challenge, stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" Stop asking, "Who's to blame?" and start asking, "What's in my control?" Every great comeback, every great achievement, every great story you've ever admired was written by someone who made that pivot. And if you're listening to me right now, it's your turn to make it too. Every single person in this room is living inside a story you didn't even realize you were writing. The way you see yourself, the way you explain your past, the way you predict your future, it's all shaped by the story you've been telling yourself. And here's the truth. If you don't rewrite that story, the old one will keep repeating itself like a broken record. Most people don't fail because they aren't capable. They fail because their story is too small. They say, "I'm not the kind of person who succeeds in business," or "I'm not disciplined enough to stay healthy," or "I'll never be wealthy." That's for people who grew up rich. Notice the pattern. It all starts with identity. I am the kind of person who. That sentence becomes a prophecy. And if your prophecy is built on weakness, on limitation, on doubt, you will unconsciously live down to it every single day. But winners? Winners learn to rewrite the script. They stop saying, "I am the kind of person who can't," and they start saying, "I am the person who does." That shift sounds small, but it changes everything. Because when your identity changes, your behavior follows. Let me give you an example. Imagine someone who's trying to quit smoking. If you ask them, "Do you smoke?" and they answer, "I'm trying to quit," their identity is still tied to being a smoker. They're battling their old self every single day. But if that same person looks you in the eye and says, "I don't smoke," their identity has shifted. It's no longer about willpower, it's about who they are. One story keeps them chained to the past. The other frees them to walk into the future. Your story is powerful because it becomes the filter through which you interpret the world. If your story is, "I'm unlucky," every setback will feel like proof. If your story is, "I'm a survivor," then every obstacle becomes another victory on your journey. Two people can face the same situation, but the one with the stronger story wins. So how do you rewrite your story? You do it through identity statements and evidence stacking. Identity statements are bold declarations about who you are becoming. Not vague affirmations, not wishful thinking, but rooted, grounded choices about the person you've decided to be. Instead of saying, "I want to be disciplined," you say, "I am disciplined." I keep my word to myself. Instead of saying, "I want to be confident," you say, "I am confident." I walk into every room with strength, but words alone are not enough. That's where evidence stacking comes in. Every time you take even a small action that matches your new identity, you add a piece of evidence to prove the story true. If you say, there comes a point in your journey where you have to make a choice. Will you live by your feelings or by your standards? Because the truth is, your feelings are not reliable. They change by the hour, by the moment. You wake up tired. You don't feel like working out. Someone criticizes you. You don't feel like chasing your goals. The weather shifts, and suddenly you don't feel like following through. If your life is run by feelings, you'll always be inconsistent, sometimes up, sometimes down, sometimes moving, sometimes stuck. But winners live by standards. Standards are the rules you create for your life that do not bend just because your emotions do. They are the promises you refuse to break, no matter how you feel in the moment. And this is what separates champions from the rest. Champions don't ask, "Do I feel like it?" They ask, "Does this align with my standard?" Think about a soldier. When a soldier is on duty, it doesn't matter if they're tired, if they're frustrated, if they're scared. Their standard is to protect, to stand guard, to show up. That standard overrides the feeling. In the same way, when you set non-negotiable standards in your life, you don't give your feelings the steering wheel anymore. Your standards drive the car. But here's the problem. Most people's standards are flexible. They say things like, "I'll go to the gym if I feel motivated," or "I'll eat healthy as long as I'm not stressed," or "I'll work hard unless something more fun comes up." That's not a standard, that's a suggestion. And suggestions never change a life. So let me challenge you. What are your non-negotiables? What are the things you will do no matter what? Maybe it's moving your body every day, even if it's just for 10 minutes. Maybe it's writing your goals down every morning, even when you're rushing. Maybe it's putting money into savings every month, no matter how tight things feel. These are standards, the unshakable pillars that keep you stable when everything else tries to pull you off course. There's a method I call the 3x-3 rule to make this practical. Choose 3 standards that matter most to you. Define 3 triggers that will remind you to act on them, and commit to them at 3 specific times each day. For example, if one of your standards is, "I move my body daily," your triggers might be when you wake up, before lunch, and before bed. That way, no matter how you feel, your standard is locked into your schedule. You don't negotiate with it, you execute it. Here's why this matters. When you live by standards, you build trust with yourself every time you keep a promise to yourself. Even when it's hard, you reinforce the belief that you are reliable, and that belief becomes confidence. Not fake confidence, not arrogance, but the kind of quiet, unshakable confidence that comes from knowing, "I do what I say, I will do." But when you live by feelings, the opposite happens. Every time you break a commitment because you didn't feel like it, you send a message to yourself that your word doesn't matter. And if your own word doesn't matter to you, why would it matter to anyone else? That's why standards are not just about discipline, they're about self-respect. Think of the great athletes, leaders, creators. Do you think they always felt like training? Do you think they always felt like practicing when no one was watching? Of course not. But their standard demanded it. Kobe Bryant once said he trained at 4 a.m. because while others were sleeping, he was gaining an edge. Was he always motivated? No. But his standard didn't care about his feelings, it cared about his mission. Your life will change the moment you raise your standards and refuse to drop them when emotions get in the way. Because discipline is not about being strict for no reason, it's about remembering what you said you wanted, even when your feelings try to talk you out of it. So here's the real question. What do you want more, comfort now or character later? A temporary feeling or a permanent identity? Because when the dust settles, nobody remembers how you felt. They remember what you did. Here's a truth most people don't want to face. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. It doesn't matter how badly you want something, how passionately you dream, or how often you visualize success. If your daily system is weak, your life will always fall short. Because goals give you direction, but systems give you traction. Think about it. Everybody has goals. Everyone says, "I want to be healthier. I want to be successful. I want to be financially free. But if goals alone created results, everyone would already be living their dream. The difference isn't the goal, it's the system, the structure of your days, the habits you repeat, the environment you've built around yourself. Here's the hard truth. Excuses are loud when your systems are weak, when your life has no structure. Every little feeling becomes a reason to stop. I don't feel like working out. I'll start tomorrow. I'll save money next month. But when you build a system, a clear, repeatable pattern, your excuses lose their power. Because a strong system doesn't ask how you feel. It simply asks if you will follow the process. Look at athletes. The reason they perform at such a high level is not just because of talent. It's because of the systems they live by. They don't just decide to train when they feel motivated. They have schedules, routines, coaches, environments, all designed to make training inevitable. Success becomes the byproduct of a system, not a random spark of willpower. The same principle applies to your life. If you want to stop making excuses, you must stop relying on raw motivation and start relying on systems. Motivation is inconsistent, it rises and falls like the tide. Systems are steady. They give you structure on the days motivation disappears. So how do you build a system that beats excuses? Start by understanding the basic loop. Cue gives, routine gives reward. This is the foundation of every habit you've ever formed. Something triggers you, cue. You respond in a certain way, routine, and you get a payoff, reward. The problem is that most of us have let this loop form unconsciously, and it's usually working against us. Take an example. You're stressed. Cue. You open your phone and scroll social media, routine. You get a quick dopamine hit, reward. Repeat that cycle enough times and it becomes automatic. But what if you rewired it? You're stressed. Cue. You take a 5-minute walk or do 10 push-ups, routine. You feel calm and accomplished, reward. Same trigger, different system. That's how change is built. Not by willpower alone, but by redesigning the loop. The most powerful way to do this is through habit architecture. That means intentionally designing your environment and routines, so the behaviors you want become easier, and the behaviors you want to avoid become harder. If you want to eat healthier, don't just try harder. Build a system. Put fruit and water in front of you. Keep junk food out of the house. If you want to save money, automate your savings so it happens without effort. If you want to be productive, set up a distraction-free workspace where excuses don't have room to grow. This is where most people get stuck. They think discipline means fighting temptation all day long. But true discipline is designing your life so temptation rarely shows up. That's what systems do. They remove excuses before they appear. And here's the beauty of systems. They create momentum. The first few days might feel heavy, but once the system is in place, the weight shifts. The system starts carrying you. Think about brushing your teeth. You don't debate with yourself every morning. Should I brush today? You just do it. That's the power of a system. It turns effort into automatic action. Let me make it real for you. Imagine two people with the same goal of running a marathon. Person A says, "I'll train when I feel like it." They run hard one day, then skip a week. They're inconsistent. Making excuses whenever life gets busy. Person B builds a system. Run at 7 a.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Lay out clothes the night before. Log miles in a journal. Join a local running group for accountability. Who do you think will finish that marathon? Not the one with the bigger dream, the one with the stronger system. So let me ask you right now, what system do you have for your goals? Or are you just relying on hope? Because hope without structure is just another excuse waiting to happen. Winners understand this. They know their future is not built on feelings. Not even on motivation, it's built on systems that make progress non-negotiable. And the moment you take control of your systems, you take control of your results. Let me tell you something that can change the way you see your life. You don't just rise to the level of your goals, you sink or soar to the level of your environment. Your surroundings, your atmosphere, your circle of influence, they are shaping you every single day, whether you admit it or not. And here's the harsh reality. If your environment tolerates excuses, you will too. Think about this. If you put a strong seed in poor soil, it doesn't matter how much potential this seed has, it won't grow. The soil, the sunlight, the water, the environment decides whether that seed thrives or dies. The same is true for you. You may have dreams, talents, gifts, and potential burning inside of you. But if you keep planting yourself in toxic environments, places where laziness is normal, excuses are acceptable, and mediocrity is celebrated, you'll suffocate. Excuses are contagious. They spread like a virus. You spend enough time around people who say, "It's too hard, it's not fair, maybe tomorrow." And soon enough, their words become your thoughts. That's why some people never break free, because they keep surrounding themselves with people who reinforce their excuses instead of challenging them to rise. Winners are ruthless about this. Winners understand that proximity is power. They choose to be around people who push them, people who set higher standards, people who refuse to let them settle for less. Because when you surround yourself with hungry, driven, disciplined people, their energy becomes your fuel. Their mindset becomes your mindset. Their standards pull yours higher. But here's the good news. You don't have to wait for the perfect people or the perfect place to show up. You can design your environment. You can audit your every single one of us carries pain. Some of it we talk about. Some of it we bury so deep we hope no one ever finds it. Pain from failure. Pain from rejection. Pain from betrayal. Pain from dreams that didn't work out the way we hoped. And here's the truth. You can let that pain chain you down, or you can let it power you forward. The choice is yours. Winners don't waste their pain, they convert it into fuel. See, most people run from pain. They treat it like an enemy. They numb it. They hide from it. They try to pretend it never happened. But when you avoid pain, you also avoid the lessons hidden inside it. Pain is a teacher. It has a message for you. And the people who rise in life are the ones who learn to stop asking, "Why did this happen to me?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me? How can I use this?" Think back to some of the most defining moments in your life. Chances are they weren't the easy days. It wasn't when everything went perfectly. It was when things fell apart. It was the heartbreak, the setback, the loss, the disappointment. Those moments left scars, but those scars shaped you. They toughened you. They gave you wisdom that comfort never could. Winners understand this. Pain is unpaid tuition. Life charges you a fee, but if you're willing to learn, the lesson becomes more valuable than the cost. Maybe you lost money in a business deal that pain taught you how to prepare better next time. Maybe someone you trusted betrayed you that. Pain taught you how to value loyalty and choose your circle wisely. Maybe you failed an exam, lost a race, missed an opportunity that pain lit a fire in you that comfort never would have sparked. But here's where most people get stuck. They carry their pain, but they never convert it. They let it harden them. In the wrong way, they become bitter instead of better. They keep replaying the story of the hurt, using it as an excuse instead of a weapon. I was hurt, so I can't trust again. I failed once, so I shouldn't try again. I was rejected, so I'm not good enough. That's when pain becomes poison. But winners do something different. They take their pain and run it through a filter. Pain gives, principle gives, practice. First, they acknowledge the pain. They don't ignore it. They face it. Second, they extract the principle. What lesson is hidden inside this hurt? And third, they turn that principle into practice. What action can I take today to grow because of it? And let's be honest, pain gives you energy, anger, frustration, heartbreak. Those emotions are powerful fuel if you channel them. That's why some of the greatest athletes and leaders in history came from struggle. They didn't just succeed. Despite the pain, they succeeded because of it. They woke up early. They trained harder. They studied longer because they remembered what it felt like to be broken. And they refused to feel that way again. So I want to ask you, what pain are you carrying right now? Maybe it's the pain of being overlooked. Maybe it's the pain of watching someone else get the chance you wanted. Maybe it's the pain of knowing you let yourself down. You can keep carrying that pain like a weight, or you can convert it into fuel. You can turn it into the fire that drives you further than anyone thought you could go. Because here's the truth. The thing that tried to break you can be the very thing that builds you.